questions. We'll just let Shawn say a few opening remarks.
You let me read off my cheat sheet.
Just quickly before we start, anyone wants to put a microphone on the desk without shouting it around?
You all good?
All good.
All right, as you know, I don't know how in the hell to do this stuff, so we're just gonna wing it and have fun. I'll say this, it's nice to, I don't know, like to actually see y'all. You know what I mean? This will be an opportunity, I guess, for me to put some faces with the names. So, anyway, obviously we're excited about this weekend for us in NXT Stand and Deliver. You know, coming to the Crypto.com Center here Saturday, April 1st. Huge card for us, very excited. What I consider our two stallions, and look, we've got a truckload of unbelievably talented young men and women in NXT, but I'm very excited about the Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes NXT Championship title match. But that's just one of many fantastic matches on the card. And before we get started, I want to go ahead and announce that even though obviously everything for this weekend is about Stand and Deliver, we are pretty excited to be announcing Battleground. It's going to take place May 28th in Lowell, Massachusetts. Once again, for us in NXT, it is just huge for us to be outside of the state of Florida. For me personally, I'll say this again: Lowell was always one of the absolutely best rockin' towns ever. Obviously, we won't be in that same building that we were in many years ago as D-Generation X, but we'll be in the Songa Center. Very much looking forward to May 28th show, Battleground in Lowell, Mass. So I feel like that's one of our bigger, more exciting announcements coming out of this thing. But if you guys are ready, we can open it up to questions. I think I've covered everything. And part of me wants to go through the whole card. Obviously, it's Stand and Deliver, but if you don't know by now, gosh, I don't know what to tell you. This city is WrestleMania and NXT personified. LA's a great place to do this. This is a big night for our NXT talent. And this is about them. So for me, I'm just excited that once again they get to have the opportunity to go out there, be outside of Florida, and perform in front of a crowd that they don't get to do very often. So we're very excited about that. So open it up to questions whenever you're ready. Denise. I know Denise.
So I want to start off by asking you about...
I'm sorry, Joe. I apologize. Am I allowed to pick or do you pick? Hell, I didn't even know. Sorry. I do not know how to do this.
I want to start off asking you about Johnny Gargano, because he's somebody that you're very close with, and he's back now and he's getting to do stuff with NXT and involved in the program with Grayson Waller. Tell us about what it was like to be able to use Johnny Gargano once again on the NXT brand.
Well, look, it's huge. Obviously, Johnny, everybody knows Johnny's in NXT OG, and I think probably more so than anybody, I think Johnny will always have, I would argue, probably the greatest connection to NXT. You know what I mean? For probably the foreseeable future, until somebody else comes along that feels like Mr. NXT. But Johnny is definitely that. So look, as soon as again, when Johnny left NXT, and we didn't know what his contract was up. We didn't know what was gonna the future was gonna hold. But we, in the back of our mind, we all, think like, boy, wouldn't it be great if, we could button this up somewhere on the backside. And obviously, lo and behold, with the way everything is changing in the WWE, we were fortunate enough to still have Johnny in our world. And so it was a relatively easy ask. You know what I mean? I think there was a big part of Johnny that wanted to make sure he had the opportunity to button that up. I don't think that probably had anything to do with his, making his decision to come back to WWE. But we're happy that he did, and we're obviously thrilled that we were able to button it up. And also at the timing of this show, it would have been big anyway, but the timing is perfect, obviously, for us to be able to do that at Stand and Deliver.
Thank you.
Shawn, Nick Hausman, House of Wrestling. Thank you so much for the time. There's reports coming out that Vince McMahon's in town this weekend. Does he have any involvement with Stand and Deliver, and how do you feel about Vince being back in the WWE fold in general?
He doesn't have any, sway, at least right now. I mean, again, no, like we haven't seen him. I haven't seen him this weekend. But I've been I've been out here since Monday, doing the tryouts with NXT, which is another subject. But look, it's WrestleMania. Vince is the one who built all of this. And again, I understand. I don't know everybody feels, but this is still the brand he built. And for him to want to come out here and be a part of this show, I think is a perfectly natural thing. I kind of hope that he does. I would like to at least see him this weekend because I haven't seen him in quite some time, just to say hello. But I hope, like Hunter and all of us here, I hope he's proud of what we put on here, out here this weekend. It's been a huge success so far. I think going in, it's already termed as a pretty big success. Now all the talent has to do is deliver on that. And I know that's obviously what their intentions are.
Thank you.
You bet.
Go.
I don't know who's. All right, so you're gonna pick.
I'll pick.
Fair. Just want to make sure, so I'm not looking over. Yes, sir.
Hey, Shawn, Connor Casey, comicbook.com. Braun and Carmelo both arrived in NXT at relatively similar times. How long has this match been circled as the big one to build to for the main event of an NXT event?
Well, this one, again, is similar to the Johnny and Waller story. This was one that, when they first came in, to your point, you could just sort of see that there's sort of these two individual guys that were special. And for the longest time, Braun is our NXT champion and Melo was the North American champion. So I guess that is one just that you put up here in your mind that, again, if everything works out appropriately, this would be a stand and deliver match. Now, sometimes, again, with injuries or things changing, call-ups, all the stuff that goes on in this industry, you sometimes worry that, well, that's the one we've got in our back pocket. So if we have to pull that out sooner, we will. Again, for instance, going out on the road the first time and, we want to sell tickets. That's a good one you want to go to. But thankfully, again, we were fortunate, again, creatively to not have to do that. So I guess this is all those are ones you think about, you put in the vault, and you do everything you can sort of creatively to make sure you don't get there until you want to. And like I said, that we were just fortunate enough that all of that worked out in this particular instance. And I think to try to put it off for another year, a little bit too much. So this was the time to go for it.
Shawn Rossap, Fightful. We've seen some stories in NXT that sort of parallel stories that you had in your career, from what we see with Roxanne to the turn that we saw recently. Are you drawing off of any other things that happened in your career, or maybe that you experienced to sort of put towards a new generation?
Well, look, some of them clearly complete ripoffs. But I'll say this: we're using them because we thought they were good. And I'll say this, and I recognize. Look, nothing thrills me more that this stuff is 30 years old, and people go like, "Oh, it's the same as." Again, I guess I'm fortunate that we've had a fan base that remembers that far, but we're also appealing to a whole new fan base. And again, they're still moving, they're still impactful, they're still kind of memorable, I guess, storylines. And so that's what we want to do. And again, I think a lot of this, I would go back to using the reference sort of again, action movies. They all sort of kind of have sort of the same sort of diagram, but people do them differently. And there's, again, the different actors, the different, other tweaks that you make in them make them different. And that's what we were hoping with all of this. I would argue that kind of everything in this line of work, every once in a blue moon, I think, find ourselves, maybe venturing into new ground or something very original. But a lot of what we do in this line of work has been done sort of somewhere down the road, and it's just us sort of mixing it up a little bit. So I guess I will say very guilty, of the doing those storylines that are obviously, I guess similar, but You're always going to have turns in wrestling. You're always going to have injuries in wrestling. So some of these are a little more spot on than the others, but they're all sort of basically derived from the same playbook, which has been around in storytelling for, even before I was doing them.
Shawn, John Allen, fight.
Thanks.
We saw some interesting teases in the Grayson Waller build, where for a hot second you guys were leaning into the idea that maybe perhaps you'd be stepping back into the ring. Has there been any serious consideration for you to work with an NXT talent? And would there be any desire to maybe even do a one-off with the children, your children, as you refer to them in the past?
Well, again, no, that is, I will say this, that has been 100%, and I'll even, we've tried to be as disciplined as we can be about not using me that much. I can't express it enough. I don't, and then I get roped into doing it a lot. I'm doing it now with, with the tryouts in NXT, and I say roped in, and look, it's a good problem to have. But I'm not a big fan of being on television anymore. I really like being behind the scenes. I like being there, engrossed in the product and making sure it's all going well from a live television standpoint. It is very difficult to me to juggle the two. And again, doing the Waller effect and having to put so much focus on trying to make that segment go well and make sure the storyline, again, delivers in the way that we want it to. I still feel like I have a bar that I've set that I can't go out there and stink the joint out. And I certainly can't do it in front of all the young men and women that I'm supposed to be in charge of. I don't like that kind of pressure. I gotta be honest. And so that's one of the reasons I enjoy stepping away. And so to answer your question, I absolutely don't. I'm thrilled about what we do at NXT, and I'm thrilled about the new generation. I will 100% sincere. And again, I was out there at the tryouts, yesterday, and I'm going to be going out later today. I don't know, I just feel like it's amazing to me, the new athletes that we've tapped into. And then you see their ability, and then you think to yourself how that could maybe transition into our line of work and what that means for the future of the WWE. So from a business standpoint, you get very excited about that. But then they come down to Orlando and they put all of their trust in us. And then you start to get to know them. Again, like Braun and Mello, again, I'm very close to both of them. So they become a part of your life, and they become like like an offshoot of your children, all of them. And even the guys from the UK, heck, I was with them for 2 years, at least 2 or 3 years before they even came over here. I have a personal stake in the success of all of them, and I take that really seriously. So for me, I absolutely, which may be unbelievable to believe coming out of my mouth, it is so easy for me not to think about myself in any of this, because I so want it for them. I absolutely adore, the young men and women that we have in NXT. I absolutely love working with them, and I want them to have weekends like this for many, many years to come. And the only way I can do that is to make sure that I'm 100% focused on them and not me and my wrestling career. I'm thrilled with what I did, very proud of it, but I am absolutely set with leaving that in the past. That's a long way to say no.
Hi, Shawn. Nice to meet you. Chris to be here, one half of those wrestling girls. And I just wanted to ask, because you mentioned that you love being in the back of NXT in the production. So during the inception, did you ever think that NXT would get to where we are right now, and then you have these two big names like Mello and Braun being the headliners for Stand and Deliver?
No, well, again, NXT started as an idea of Hunter's, and I don't know, and we certainly have to ask him. I certainly think he wanted it and knew it was going to be a success, and that's the goal of anything, is to succeed. I don't know, however, certainly for me, I know that I didn't, because I wasn't a part of it from the beginning. I can remember being asked, but I can remember that was the point of my life where, again, I just wanted to step away. I know how I do this stuff. I'm either all in or I have to be all out. I am horrible at doing just sort of kind of. especially when it comes to the WWE and this business in general. I only have, I'm all in or I'm all out. And so I certainly didn't know that it would become what it's become in my life. But I just know that my first trip to Florida, now having had time off and retirement, and the first time stepping foot in that building, that culture just overtook me, and it's something that you really wanted to be a part of. I was very, very comfortable being number 2. I will be really, really honest with you. I absolutely enjoyed that. This is different. It's a lot of work, but it's been challenging. It's sort of, I don't know, brought up in me again, sort of that competitive nature that I used to have in the ring. But it's just from a different standpoint now. I want this to be good for them, and I want the shows to be, well received, on behalf of not only the fan base that has committed itself to NXT, but also again the men and women that come to NXT and put their trust in us. So look, I guess that's a long way of saying that I knew when it started it was going to be something cool, but I had no idea that I would be a part of it, and it's a big part of it as I've become. But just like my wrestling career, I knew that I loved it. I just didn't know where it was going to go. It surpassed far more than I ever possibly could have dreamed, and this has been the same thing. And my life has been sort of that tale of itself. I am, just now I'm an old man, but I'm a kid from Texas that wanted to be a pro wrestler. You know what I mean? And 1-bedroom apartment and a car would have been bitchin'. You know what I mean? And a lot's changed since then. So obviously I'm thrilled about it, and that's why I'm committed to NXT and obviously the WWE.
Hey Shawn, what's your report? Brett Matthews. It's been a couple of months since William Regal has been brought back in the fold in WWE. Can you talk a little bit about his potential involvement and any role that he's had in NXT since being back?
Well, look, Steve's obviously a huge part of NXT and its origins. I will say this: at least for the the immediate future, Steve's been doing more stuff with main roster than he has with us. Now we haven't had the time, obviously, with everything. With Stand and Deliver and WrestleMania, the communication has not been a lot between myself and everybody in Stanford. And as far as Steve's role, if he wants to come back and be a part of NXT, I would suspect that he does. Obviously, to work with his son, if nothing else. But right now, for those of us in the WWE family, we're just thrilled to have Steve back. And by Steve, I'm William Regal, but I call him Steve, obviously. But I have no same reason I'm the only one that calls Hunter, and everybody else calls him Paul. But anyway, but we're happy to have him back. He's been out there at the tryouts. He's still a big part of NXT. I think he's still sort of got his hands in everything. His eyes, Steve's eyes are everywhere, I guess I'll say, and he's continuing to look around the wrestling world and find for us maybe a diamond in the rough. So again, as far as what he does for NXT, there's still outliers of him doing that, and hopefully in the future, there'll be more of it.
Sir Wilkins here. How are you today?
Good.
All right. So you've been talking about the tryouts a lot throughout this conversation, and you have an eye for talent. What exactly do you look for at these tryouts to potentially be an NXT superstar or a WWE main roster superstar?
Well, to be honest, I don't know that I look for anything specific. Clearly, you have to have, obviously, athleticism, you have to be coordinated. I think a lot of what, I guess if I said I was going to look for is how much do they listen to the coaching and apply it, and how quickly do they go from what maybe they were doing wrong to doing right, and what attitude they do that with, how much energy they bring, and doing your best in a short amount of time to see what kind of people they are. Let's put it this way. We have, for me anyway, I'll say this time, there's, a show being, filmed while we're doing that. I often wonder how often, a camera makes people different, and especially young people. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that, again, you put them in front of a camera. I don't know how much of the real them we get to see and how much they're putting it on. I don't know, from everything you see on TV, from a reality standpoint, I need to be a this, or I don't, you know what I mean? So it's trying to see through that and then find a little bit about the human being. I will say now that we've done a number of these with these athletes, you begin to sort of, I don't know, for me, I'll say I noticed that like the gymnasts or the tumblers seem to really transition well. I think for the first time we have a male cheerleader out there this time, and he's doing fantastic. And so, and sometimes whether our bigger football players, the footwork, is maybe not as good on a lineman, but you look at a wide receiver and it's a little bit different. So again, honestly, the more we do these with some of these college athletes, the more I'm learning about it. But I still go back to the sort of the overall, if you see it, you see it. It's one of those things that I'll go back to, the things in my life that have been really important to me, I just kind of knew. And so I look at this the same way. Clearly we're gonna cast a wide net, but there are usually 2 or 3 that you pick out and you go like, those ones are special. Those are ones I know we're gonna keep.
Thank you.
You bet.
Excuse me. Hi, Shawn. Ricky Chino, SB Nation. You look at so much of the talent that was on Stand and Deliver last year has now moved on. Many of them are wrestling this weekend at WrestleMania. And obviously that's part of your guys' job at NXT is to get these people ready to move on. When you work so closely with somebody for so long and you're really kind of a mentor to them, when it finally does get to be close to their graduation day, how does that make you feel?
Well, it's bittersweet, obviously. You're thrilled for them. And look, everybody, it's no different than when you have your buddies. Again, we all used to travel up and down the road together, but then Kevin and Scott, they're going to WCW, and like, oh, don't worry, we'll still talk, we'll call. Like, no, you don't. Because you don't have time. This business is busy. And the same thing with our talent that go up. Like, I'll come back and visit you. And then maybe they do a couple times, and all of a sudden, life and the job and everything else gets a hold of them. But that's, again, I've been doing this for 38 years now, and so I'm used to that. Our job is, again, to give them the best platform that we can and enable them to have success. I think it's a good thing, and I take it as a compliment if they're having so much success they don't have the time to fit us into the schedule. I'll say this, it's one of those things where, it's sort of a roll of the dice. I'll find out what kind of job I did because one day, sooner or later, you're gonna interview them, you're gonna have them on a podcast, and they're either gonna say something really nice about me, or they're gonna really bury me, and then I'll know what kind of job I did. But again, you know what I mean? It's, well, I appreciate it. I got one guy being so funny. All right, thank you very much. But again, look, I'll say this. I mean, I know what our intentions are there, and it always helps, again, I guess when they, they all still keep in touch. You know what I mean? You get a text every now and then, and it's very nice. And so, like I said, that's what it is. It's just being being a part of somebody's life, being, something that you go like, they say thank you. And that's, I don't know. And I even see it at the tryouts. You see some of them come back and they come up and they, you get a hug instead of a handshake. You know what I mean? And it even happens with Regal. Yeah? And so, and you watch, I watched someone like an Almost come in yesterday where I didn't have a lot of time with him, but I could see him just hugging Regal, because, Steve's known him from the very beginning, you know what I mean? And I guess that's the stuff that we take with us. It isn't about how much they call us or how much we see them. The fact that when they do see us, you can tell it was something special. And, I don't know, it was a joy for me to sit there and watch that yesterday, you know what I mean? Because without Steve, a lot of those people don't make it in the door. And I apologize. Do we have a water by any chance? Is there any water in here? Apparently not. No, okay. No, we can go ahead. I was just curious.
Mike Johnson, PW Insider. I wanted to ask about.
You were supposed to be first, aren't you? That's like twice now. You're killing your gimmick off. Another guy.
I wanted to see what the status is on NXT Europe as you guys develop it. Where are we in terms of talent recruitment, infrastructure, and have any of the plans changed with the company potentially being sold next year?
So as far as I know, no plans have changed. But again, look, that's what we do in NXT. We zig when we're supposed to zag if they ask us to. But right now, it's my understanding that everything is on course. And I will say this, be honest with you, I never know what in the hell it is I'm supposed to say about that stuff and I'm not supposed to say. I do know that it's still on course. I know that we're putting sort of, it, from our standpoint, from a creative standpoint, getting people on board that we think will help be able to, write and produce that show and things of that nature. We have in our minds, and then we put down on paper, certainly from our standpoint, talent that we feel like one can benefit from it, and also some of our new and younger talent that we have at NXT where we say like they might not be live TV ready, but these would be great prospects to do from an NXT Europe standpoint. And then I have also on sort of on our own, again, because I just sort of assume we're going to get asked, I've done a little research, and had some people look into some obviously talent that live over, in the UK and in Europe and whatnot, and trying to sort of look at who we feel like might be the best to at least reach out to when the time comes that we get asked to do that. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Steve. Hey, Shawn, usually I have my baby when we do Zoom calls.
Oh yeah, very nice.
Yes, I'm Boston boy, very excited about coming back. But yet, NXT Stand and Deliver is pretty much the WrestleMania of NXT. Could we see championships of NXT being defended on WrestleMania maybe next year?
As far as an NXT match on WrestleMania, you're saying? Well, look, I'll say this. I don't think, certainly when you come out here to the West Coast, that gets very difficult. I don't know. It's a great question. I don't see that being able to happen, to be perfectly honest, because one of our stand and deliver event. And look, it's also that, those spots at WrestleMania are very valuable. And look, we've moved to 2 nights, and that's, some of it is because one, obviously it can hold 2 nights. And I'd imagine it's, extremely successful from a company standpoint. But I don't know that that's maybe the best message to send to some of your, hardcore faithful guys on Raw and SmackDown, that they run the possibility of being replaced by a match on NXT. And I do understand that that would be a great highlight for us and great exposure for us. But I guess again, I guess I get the luxury. I've been on both sides, and those spots are very valuable. So I would understand if that was something they didn't want to do, especially when we have our own event going on, certainly before the first event of WrestleMania.
Thank you.
You bet.
DAngelo, adfreeshows.com. How are you, Shawn?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Question I had, I share the same last name with him. Wanted to ask about the development of Tony DAngelo. How do you feel he's been doing in NXT so far and cultivating himself as a character and growing more that he could be main roster ready?
Look, Tony's one of our favorite guys. He's one, as we always say, he's good people. He's just a good young man through and through, which is fantastic. I think from a character standpoint, look, and I know there's some people like, oh my goodness, it's such a cliche, cheesy character. That's what makes it so great, if you ask me. I think he does a phenomenal job. And look, Tony, I'll say, it's funny you ask that because again, Tony is that guy to me where, depending on things, how they flesh out here in the next, I don't know, throughout the summer. I see Tony being the guy that goes to the next level here in NXT. Now that goes with me saying that's if we get to keep him. And so I think that's a good problem to have because Tony is one of those guys that I feel like we have kept pretty steady and consistent on NXT, but we have not, give him what you might call the big push. But he's somebody that could easily transition to main roster, because we've done a good job of taking care of him. So for me, that's what I will say personally. It is a wait and see on how things flesh out here, after WrestleMania. And if we have Tony D, I think he's got really, really big things here in NXT in the future for him.
Cool, thank you.
You bet.
Hello, Emily May with Sportskeeda Wrestling. Thank you so much for your time today. I wanted to know that you've had so many amazing memories, not only in the ring, but behind the scenes. And now that you've talked a lot about how you've taken many under your wing. and we've seen you have emotional moments after matches. What are some of the memories that come to mind as you lead into WrestleMania weekend, as you're uplifting some of these NXT stars before their big moment?
Well, again, I suppose that's one thing. I'm real with all of them, and again, I'll say that they understand it. I'm emotionally attached to a great many of them. They know that. I think that makes them sometimes want to work really hard for me, which I think is a good problem to have. But they know I'm personally invested. And I guess what the hardest part for me and the most anxiety I have out of the weekend is now it's in their hands and I want it to go perfectly. And that to me, and it's funny because Hunter has been doing his best over the last, and he's been doing it over the last several years, but certainly the last several months of I don't know, helping me sort of through the being able to sit there. He's so calm and cool, and he just sort of sits there and rides right through. I yell at the screen, I'm up, I'm down, I'm moving all over the place. Like Johnny's sitting there smiling because I'm throwing headsets off. I'm all over the place because I'm so wrapped up in everything that it is that they do. I want it to go perfectly for them, but you can't go out there and perform it for them. Yeah. And so I don't know. Again, I guess that's what I do is I just tell them I try to make sure they try to enjoy this, and to also remind them that the sun will. One of the things that they know I'll say all the time: the sun will still rise tomorrow. The world is not going to fall. Time will not stand still. Your life will not go to hell in a handbasket if you don't have a 5-star match. You will be okay. We've still got Tuesday. You know what I mean? For this job, the great thing is to always try to remember to let them know in 6 days we can change it. You know what I mean? It's 6 days. And quite honestly, the way the business is now, there's another show on Wednesday night, there's another show on Thursday night, there's another show on Friday night. Again, the news cycle is pretty fast, so all you have to really do is wait 24 hours and this too shall pass. So again, we tell them to make the best of it, but if it doesn't go the way that they had hoped, they're always going to have another opportunity.
Thank you.
Hi, Shawn. Joel Torres from Contralona. So this show is going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern, but here in Los Angeles it's going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern. Are there any challenges production-wise that you have been working with?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Next. No. No, it is. Look, it's incredibly challenging. It's it's getting to the building at 5:30. It's a 6 a.m. Call time, and and again, this is you may not know this, but this is Los Angeles. Apparently, it's a union. So look, people working overtime. No, it's very challenging. But I'll say this again: no matter what you want to say about the WWE. The reality is, this is what we do. We get it's part of the job. And look, we have no one to blame but ourselves because we throw, batshit crazy challenges at one another, and then we feel now we got to pull it off. And that's what's going to happen on Saturday morning. We're all going to roll in there at 6 a.m. Again, that production crew is going to be there. We're going to be there with a skeleton crew. We're going to have to get things done. We're going to have to get it done quickly and sharply and be out of there by a certain amount of time and then get over to WrestleMania. It's just, and those people are going to pull it off. And so that's part of the challenge. And then you look at this show and you realize, again, we've got some 20-year-olds out there. We've got some 22-year-olds out there. We've got our over the hill gang at probably 30. You know what I mean? So, and we're asking them to do all this before WrestleMania, and to do it again on a moment's notice. So again, it's incredibly challenging from every production standpoint. It's a thin crew. It's a very little time for, again, it's a new building, it's a new setup. Rehearsals are different. Guess what? We don't have time to do a lot of stuff. But we're going to get it done one way or another. And that's the challenge of it. That's the joy of getting it done. And look, when everything is said and done, you guys will grade it on the performance. And again, and look, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I expect nothing less. You know what I mean? You're going to hold us accountable to that. And if it ain't good, you're not going to sit there and go like, well, but they had a 6 a.m. wake up call. And Shawn did tell us they had to get up at, everybody was up at 4:30 in the morning. Our girls had to get into makeup at 5:30 a.m. You know what I mean? And, and have 20 minutes, per match for rehearsal, you know what I mean? Entrances and everything else. Now you're going to go like it sucked or it was great. But that's the way it should be, you know what I mean? And that's okay. Again, we look forward to the challenge. We'll find out how it turns out. And like I said, if it, no matter how it goes, we got a show coming Tuesday night as we fly back to Orlando.
Shawn, Jan Murphy, Post Media. A few weeks ago, we saw Sami Zayn in Montreal. We saw the crowd really take over that weekend. You're familiar with the Montreal crowd. Talk about what you do with the kids in terms of crowds, and what to expect and how to work a crowd, and what goes into that, and what you might expect this weekend.
Well, you know what? I guess I'll say this from the crowd standpoint. I know that's always kind of a question mark, and I always look. It's about enjoying the experience, no matter what it is, positive or negative. I'll say this: I think most people come to have a good time. Now, how everyone defines a good time may be different, but again, I guess for us, the great thing about being in front of those folks in Orlando, it's almost, we always tell everybody, they're a rough group, but it's almost like stand-up. You know what I mean? They might have to, it's great developmental training for them, because you never know week to week how our fans are going to react in Orlando. They can turn on you on a dime, or they can be behind you for some strange reason that you don't even know why. But that's great, which makes our superstars have to, develop and learn to think on the fly. It really affects from a promo standpoint. It makes them more sharp. So we always look at everything from a developmental standpoint. That's what we are. And so there's going to be good and bad all the time. And I'll say this job, no matter where you're going, you never know it all. You continue to learn, because again, the great thing about it is it continues to evolve, it continues to change. What you guys want, what you're looking for, what the entertainment dollar is asking for these days sort of changes on a regular basis. And I don't know that anybody can define what that is exactly. You just do your best as an entertainer to go out there, you know what I mean? Trust what you've done, trust the story that you're in, trust the match and everything that you've put forward. And then you got to go out there and let it roll. And again, I'll say this, I think things are now viewed maybe a bit better in hindsight, you know what I mean? And I think there's always a chance for that, and that's something to always, to remind them as well. That's something that was in the moment really great. 10 years from now, people will say wasn't great, and something that was horrible 10 years from now, they're gonna go like, oh no, that was before its time. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Once again, the sun's gonna rise tomorrow. We can't live and die on each performance, and that is a mantra all the time with our talent, because again, it's a stressful business as it is. You know, I mean, this is a stressful weekend as it is. This job is going to become about business and money and travel and a lot of other things. I want this part of their lives to be fun, and so I want them to enjoy these moments. Let the crowd react the way they want. They paid their money. Let them have a good time. You go out there and do the same thing.
Cool. Got time for one more?
Queen PR, one half of those wrestling girls. One thing I appreciate about NXT is that you guys have the most women on TV most of the time. What can you say about the NXT women's division, and where do you see them go?
It's going to continue to grow. We're very proud of that. And look, that started, I think years ago with NXT. I think what I'm most proud of is that we have continued to build on that and build on it in a way that isn't, I guess, we're producing new talent, brand new people that no one has ever seen before, and these ladies are stepping up and they're doing a great job. You think about Tiffany and Soul, and again, I'm just naming, there are others, but I'm just naming those two. The way they've adapted to this, again, Soul's been doing it for, 9 months? And it's absolutely crazy. And Tiffany, she's there like at 1 year. And it's amazing the way they've adapted, and we've turned them into, again, sort of, maybe certainly they're not Roman Reigns, and they're not, Trish Stratus at this level yet, or Becky. But my goodness, we've turned them into NXT superstars in a very short amount of time. But it's because of their dedication and their ability. They're just phenomenal athletes. And thing is, they're fantastic young ladies, and they're hungry and they're passionate. And I think they've fallen in love with this stuff, which is the best part for us. Because when they do that, when they buy into what it is we do, that to me is kind of the difference maker of going to other levels. No, they may not have been like so many of us and watched it when they were little, or maybe just did it for a short time and then got away from it because they focused on something else. Again, their sporting careers, but they always they come back and they understand the passion and the love that we all have for it, and it transfers over to them, and it becomes important to them also to hold up the reputation of just that women's division. And that's something that I think, NXT has sort of made sort of its own thing, sort of renowned. If you're a young lady coming into NXT, you've got a big legacy to uphold. And I think at least all the new young ladies coming in, they take that really seriously. And we're very proud of that they do, because I will say, I think that's one of our, that's one of our proudest things, is that that we do just that we are able to feature our ladies a lot of times, and there's no, I don't know, and be able to go like, oh yeah, that's the main event. You know what I mean? That's just fantastic for us, and to do it with no worry. Again, to have capable, bright young ladies, coming in is just fantastic, and obviously, our veteran ladies, Zoe and Indy, again, bringing them up, making sure that they understand it, they respect it, you know what I mean, and continue to pass that on. It's absolutely, again, I'm beating it over the head, but we're very proud of it as well, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, to be perfectly honest. Thank you.
Shawn will wrap with closing remarks.
Closing remarks? No, again, once again, thank you guys very much. As I've said to the times on the phone, I enjoy doing these. I really appreciate you guys helping us out with NXT, and I know part of it's your job. I hope these things are well received. I enjoy doing them. I hope you enjoy doing them. I try to be real with it, and I don't know. Again, we're looking forward to to Stand and Deliver. We'd certainly appreciate any help, last minute pushes you guys can give us. The women's championship match, the ladder match, I'm pretty sure is going to be starting off this show. We're going to start this thing off with a bang. The men in the North American Championship match, that thing is absolutely going to be freaking crazy. And again, just so excited about it, this show. And I know it's early in the morning. Don't stay out late on Friday, all right? After the Hall of Fame, get your monkey asses in bed, all right? Sorry, and make sure you get up and come out and support us. And again, thank you all very much. Is there anything else I'm technically supposed to cover from a corporate standpoint? Cool.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you all so much.